After reaching an agreement on both sides, the atmosphere instantly became tense. Dustin and Mr. Wangley had their subordinates purchase some medicine for them. The plan was that the two of them would concoct poisons on the spot and down them together at the same time. As for who would win, that would have to depend on their respective skills. Do you think Dustin's going to make it, sis? What if he gets poisoned to death instead? Ruth voiced out anxiously. Well, since he agreed to it in the first place, I suppose this means he's confident that he can win. Have some faith in the guy, Natasha assured with a straight face. Although she looked calm on the outside, she felt uneasy on the inside. If it were possible, she'd rather Dustin straight up admit defeat. You can say that, but Dustin's only proficient in medicine. Surely he can't beat Mr. Wangley in terms of his experience in the field of poison research, Ruth murmured while shaking her head. There were many subfields in the field of medicine, with each subfield being vastly different from one to the other. So, how can an amateur compete with a professional? Compared to the two sisters' worries, Jessica felt second-hand embarrassment for Dustin as she sat at the side. She wasn't sure if she should label Dustin as arrogant or stupid to agree to compete with a master of poison at making poisons. Then again, she was still amused that things managed to get to this point. If Dustin loses, he'll either be dead or crippled, which would mean that she wouldn't need to expend so much energy thinking about her daughter's marriage anymore. I would advise you to drop out of the competition while you can, Mr. Boy Toy, else, when the poison kicks in your system, you might not even get the chance to regret your decision anymore. Quentin pressed. To be frank, I have to commend you for your bravery as well. To think that you're willing to put your life in someone else's hands. I don't suppose you ever thought that if ever the old man loses, the one who might kick the bucket is you? Dustin pointed out flatly. Ridiculous! Mr. Wangley has been researching poisons for many years now, so how could he possibly lose? You'll see how great he is later. Quentin gave a bark of laughter. Dustin merely let out a short chuckle and said nothing more in response. A few moments later, the subordinates the two of them sent to purchase medicine for them entered through the front doors hurriedly. Immediately after retrieving the goods, Mr. Wangley started concocting his poison at lightning speed. His movements were so fast that it was enough to make one's head spin. In the meantime, Dustin took his time with it and did everything at his own pace. After a long while, Mr. Wangley had finished concocting his poison, which appeared to be a bottle of viscous, black liquid. One could even smell a faint scent of dead fish wadding out of it. I'm done with my poisons, Mr. Boy Toy. Dare to put it down the hatch? Quentin taunted as he placed the bottle on the table and provocatively glared at him. Anyone with a discerning eye could definitely see that the black potion in front of them was highly poisonous. This meant that anyone who ingested it would surely be in danger. What say we just forget about this whole thing? Dustin? It's obvious that anyone who drinks this will surely die. Ruth pleaded, clearly upset. Natasha, who was standing beside her, also couldn't help but ball up her fists. It's just poison. There's nothing to worry about. Dustin grinned before picking up the bottle and downing the entire thing in one swig. His swift but confident motion caused Quentin to freeze. Was this punk actually not afraid of death? He thought to himself. How are you feeling? Natasha hurriedly probed. Well, my mouth feels bitter from the aftertaste, but all in all, the taste is fine. Dustin evaluated. Natasha was speechless at his reply. The corners of her mouth started twitching. Did you think that I was asking you about the taste? She thought to herself incredulously. You don't have to put up a front if it's too much for you to bear, young man. You just need to bow down to Mr. Harmon and admit your mistakes if you want me to save you, Mr. Wangley said amusedly. Your poison is mildly toxic at best, Dustin replied while smacking his lips a few times. If I'm not mistaken, what you just conjured up is the devil's elixir, right? It's a good poison of choice, but it's a shame you used the wrong ingredients for it. What you should have used was aconite instead of epiphyllum. Although both of their medical properties are similar, there are still a few minor differences between them. This is one determining factor of what makes a poison so potent, he explained. Huh? How did you know? Did you peek at me while I was concocting the mix just now? Mr. Wangley gasped as his expression warped into pure shock. He was absolutely correct in deducing that the poison he made was the devil's elixir, and that he had added epiphyllum as one of the ingredients. Was it even necessary to peek? I could tell the moment I smelled it in the air. Dustin retorted. You used a total of 5 ingredients, namely strychnine, Zeus vine, oranges, philanthus, and a sliver of devil's grass. It's such a shame that you were this close to making the perfect poison though. The moment Dustin finished speaking, Mr. Wangley couldn't help but break out in a shudder. To think that this punk could list out every single one of the ingredients he'd used to make his poison. He'd be fine if he had just told him that he peaked, but it was terrifying to think that he could deduce everything just by smell alone. Even he felt that it would take him light years to even get to this level. What the hell happened, Mr. Wangley? A few minutes have already passed, and yet he hasn't reacted at all, Quentin thought to himself with some unease. Rest assured, Mr. Harmon. Anyone can tell that he's just putting on a bold front right now. Without an antidote, I can guarantee you that he'll kick the bucket in no time flat. Mr. Wangley hollered with confidence after reeling from his shock. Even if Dustin found a way to make a cure, it would still be impossible to completely get rid of the poison from his system. And that was because Mr. Wangley had added something extra inside. Now that's music to my ears. Quentin secretly sighed in relief. I'm also done making my poison, Dustin declared as he presented a bottle with a yellow-colored liquid inside. A lot of steam emanated from the foul-smelling, hot liquid. It looked absolutely disgusting. What the fuck is that? It reeks. Quentin sneered. He immediately covered his scrunched-up nose with his hands. While it might stink a bit, I promise you it tastes pretty good. Feel free to give it a go, Dustin said casually as he pushed the bottle toward them. You can't possibly be thinking of chickening out now, right, oh great Quentin Harmon? Natasha pressed. Quentin remained silent but turned to look at Mr. Wangley standing beside him, clearly hesitating. Relax, Mr. Harmon. I saw every ingredient this kid used clearly, so even if you ingest the poison, I can whip out an antidote for you in under 3 minutes. Mr. Wangley assured confidently. Sounds great. Here we go. Quentin exclaimed with his newfound courage. He then proceeded to pick up the bottle, pinch his nose, and down the whole bottle. Quentin gagged just as he downed the poison. It felt like it was about to come back out again. Not only did it reek, but it also tasted bitter, rancid, and disgusting all at the same time. It felt as if he had just eaten a pile of shit. It was an extremely unpleasant experience. It won't count if you spit it out, Dustin reminded. Quentin gritted his teeth. He had no other choice but to swallow everything back down with a flushed face. It'd be a waste to spit everything out after all that effort of drinking it in the first place. What exactly did you add inside? How come it stinks so much? There was a lingering taste in his mouth and teeth that refused to go away. Oh, nothing much. Just some golden juice, Dustin said flatly. The moment he revealed it, Mr. Wangley's face contorted with shock. Even Jessica, who had been sitting at the side all this while, raised an eyebrow upon hearing that. Golden juice? What the fuck is that? Quentin probed, feeling uneasy. Golden juice, or golden liquid or fecal fluid, it basically just means human excrement in layman's terms, Dustin explained with a small grin.